Cam Ward had another rough day on Wednesday with another interception, but the offense overall bounced back. I'm going to break it down on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we are going to break down the Tennessee Titans' second padded practice of the week. We're going to talk about how Chig Okonkwo stepped up his game in the blocking phase. We're going to talk about how the offensive line specifically helped the offense bounce back, but we got to start with more struggles for Cam Ward. Before we dive into all of it, though, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. We have Tennessee Titans training camp over the weekend. We have joint practices right around the corner, preseason games before you know it, and then the regular season will be here. If you want to be as up to date, as informed, as entertained as you possibly could be every single day as a Tennessee Titans fan, then you need to do it here with me at Locked On Titans. Make sure that you follow me at Tic Tac Titans on Twitter. Follow Locked On Titans on whatever social media platform that you are on. You can find me there. Again, I am your host, Tyler Rowland. 25 years as a Tennessee Titans fanatic. Cover the team for USA Today, Sports Illustrated. I'm a certified film junkie that's been hosting this podcast going into my 7th season. But with all that being said, we got to start once again with more struggles for Cam Ward. Now, I've seen all of the reports saying it was a bounce-back day for the offense, but you look at Cam Ward's performance. Teron Davenport from ESPN called it a bad day. I saw Ben Arthur call it a challenging day. Make no mistake about it. It was another rough day for Cam Ward out there that included, again, another interception. He had a ball tipped at the line of scrimmage, batted up into the air, tipped up by Cody Barton once again, who just is all over Cam Ward during training camp. And then Roger McCreary was able to get the pick. He had passes throughout the practice, had a pass knocked down a couple of different times, 2 back-to-back knockdown passes at one point in time. They asked Cam Ward about his sidearm throws and his low throws that are getting tipped, and he said, it's just football. It's just football. That's what happens. He's been throwing that way his entire life. He said he had tip passes in high school and tip passes in college. He'll have tip passes in the NFL. That's just football. It is what it is. I don't know that I would throw it away that much out of all of the things that we've discussed. The low passes for Cam Ward, they're getting tipped at the line of scrimmage. That's probably my biggest concern out of everything that we've heard throughout camp. But at the end of the day, he's right. That is part of football, and you just hope that he's able to adjust, find his angles in between the offensive linemen, understand when he can go sidearm, when he can't go sidearm. He even said, I've thrown passes where I didn't throw it sidearm, and they got tipped. So he makes a great point there. Now, look, it wasn't all bad for Cam Ward, and once again, it's a second padded practice as a rookie. We have to think about the entire picture. He completed what might be the highlight of training camp to Calvin Ridley in double coverage on a deep route down the field. Everybody went nuts. I mean, my guy Zach Lyons from F-Word said that he was turning into the Red Hawk after he saw the play. So everybody was fired up about that one. He had a deep pass on a post down the field to Jaquan Jackson that was perfect, and Jaquan Jackson dropped it. That's not Cam Ward's fault. You know what I mean? So he had some excellent plays. He certainly was better in this practice than he was on Tuesday's practice. That seems to be across the board what every report you could find would say about Cam Ward. So at the end of the day, what you like to see is improvement. You want to see improvement from Cam Ward, and while it was still a pretty rough day for the rookie quarterback, it was a better day than what we saw yesterday. Again, the timing has to be better. He's got to speed up his process. He's got to get through his reads. He's got to do that at a much quicker rate than what he's doing right now to eliminate some of these tip balls and some of these late passes, and I'm getting to the wide receiver and it's behind him because I'm a little bit late. He's just got to speed up his process, and we talk all the time. If you talk to any casual football fan about the difference between NFL and college. They're going to say the speed of the game. So, of course, the speed of the game is what Cam Ward is struggling with right now, and he's trying to quicken that up. And we got to talk about this. I saw Nick Holes was on 104.5 The Zone afterwards talking about how they have purposefully made it as difficult as possible on Cam Ward. They worked a ton of third and long. It's 3rd and 11. That's a tough situation. Think good NFL teams during the season on 3rd and long situations, if you're over 50%, you're tremendous on 3rd and 10 and better. That's very difficult situations, and the Titans have been repping 3rd and long. Plus, on the other side of it, you got blitz by Denard Wilson. Everybody that you've heard from, whether it be a Titans offensive player or a Titans defensive player, is talking about the pressure that Denard Wilson is bringing. We have talked about how the Titans offensive line is doing pretty good in one-on-one situations and pretty good overall, but they're bringing blitz after blitz, and one of those knockdown passes for Cam Ward was a blitz from Xavier Woods straight up the middle that got untouched pressure on him and then knocked it down. So I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to acknowledge, hey, Cam Ward's struggling in these practices. He's not having great practices right now. You have to be honest about that. But you can be honest about that and say, hey, he's not having great practices right now. But you can also say he's improving. And they're making it difficult on him on purpose. It should be very, very difficult early on. These are his first padded practices as an NFL pro. So, again, I know that half of the people read what I say or hear the opening and say, oh, this guy's hating on Cam Ward. And then the rest of you that actually listen say, no, I'm just being honest about Cam Ward, and then preaching patience with that. We can be honest that he's not having great practices right now. He's struggling a little bit. But also be honest and say, this is what a rookie quarterback should be doing. So both of those things can be said at the same time, in my opinion, without anybody freaking out. But apparently that doesn't seem to be the case. I do want to mention one other thing that's been kind of bothering me. It's been on my mind. I see in my comments on YouTube, people saying to me online, well, Levis lit it up in training camp last year, so obviously Will Levis did not light up training camp last year. That is insane revisionist history. Will Levis had good practices that we got excited. He lit up certain practices, but does everybody forget joint practices against the Seattle Seahawks where Will Levis was awful? They did an 11-on-11 team period, 2-minute drill at the end of one of those practices, and on the very first throw, he threw a pick six. Will Levis didn't light up training camp last year. So look, I'm not here to say that what Cam Ward is doing in training camp practice right now is real. What I'm saying is all of you guys who are coping with Cam Ward's struggles by saying Will Levis lit up training camp last year, so training camp clearly means nothing, you're lying. You're a liar, because Will Levis did not light up training camp last year. And ask any of the people who actually were there at training camp, who worked training camp. Go ask them yourself. Go ask TD. Go ask the beat reporters whether Will Levis lit up training camp last year. He did not, okay? And I know that since I do this for a living and I cover the team for work and I'm locked in all the time, maybe I remember some of this stuff more than others, but I remember all of you guys yelling at me because I said that Will Levis was struggling during training camp. And everyone got mad because we were all hype and excited about Will Levis. No way, I'm not here. It's just training camp. He's not struggling. It's the same stuff. So I have much more faith in Cam Ward to learn from these struggles and continue, but please do not try to come to my comment section and say Will Levis lit it up in training camp last year. You are lying, okay? Or your memory is rough. Either way, so maybe it's a medical thing and you have memory issues. I'm sorry, no mean to offend, but if you're somebody whose memory is perfectly intact and you think that Will Levis lit it up in training camp last year, like, he had some good practices, don't get me wrong, like, he certainly did, but come on now, let's just be honest. Why can't we all just be honest? Will Levis didn't light it up in training camp. Cam Ward is struggling, but it's not time to panic. Honest. That's what I'm all about here. Now, if we want to be honest, but we want to be positive, the Titans offense did bounce back, and a lot of that had to do with the offensive line, who finally got some get back on the defense. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings a bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor to your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course are off of it, quite frankly. You just need that extra boost to stay sharp. For me personally, training camp happens, I'm breaking down film, I'm doing multiple shows, multiple videos, multiple podcasts, all of that stuff. Sometimes I just need a little extra kick, and that's what I can get with the 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. And if I'm golfing, well, I need everything that I can get. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the Bev Carp. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5, hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Cam Ward's practice and how the struggles still continue, even if there's a little bit of marginal improvement, which Cam Ward called the practice very mid. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, if I'm honest with you. Just a peek behind the curtain of my thoughts. Probably should have mentioned the very mid comment at the beginning, because Cam Ward himself is telling you that he's not having great practices. So if you don't believe me, believe him. But regardless, the offensive line had a bounce-back performance after winning one-on-ones yesterday, but struggling a little bit in the run game period. Today, on Wednesday, or yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, to my morning podcast, folks, shout out to you guys. But regardless of that, the offensive line bounced back. The offensive line had a very good day. Reports all over the board about a run game period. The Titans had 9 versus 7. Is what it was for run game. You have the quarterback and the running back, you know what I mean? And then you're going at it with the front 7. But 9 versus 7, and the Titans offensive line was opening up big holes. Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears breaking off runs. Even some of the second and third team lines. There's a late period where you heard reports about Chestnut breaking off runs and some of the other camp body running backs the Titans have brought in, making some big runs. So the offensive line up and down the board really had a pretty good day, and especially in a lot of these drills. My guy Ramon Foster, who is a friend of the program, I've had him on this show before, but Ramon Foster said on his program that basically it's tough for the offensive line when the defense knows you're running the ball. You're having a run game period. So the defense literally knows that you're running the ball. You know what I mean? And that makes it tough. That makes it tough on the offensive line when they know what it's doing. It's like goal line every single rep. But even with that, the Tennessee Titans offensive line still had some great movement, was opening up some holes. And of course, the stars of the day, when we get outside of just the offensive line's raw performance overall. In the team run period, they did pretty good. Some good pockets during the team periods as well in pass protection. The one-on-ones, I forget exactly who said it. Might have been my guy JT Runke, but he said the defensive line won some more battles on Wednesday, but overall still lost the war to the offensive line. And I think that's a great way to put things. The offensive line, especially in these one-on-one periods, have had the advantage. Okay, and that's typically not the case because defensive linemen can jump off the ball and it's a one-on-one situation, and the offensive line more than anything else has to work as a unit. You're not just a one-man. Yeah, sometimes the offensive tackle gets isolated or there's a slant this way and that leaves a guard isolated with a defensive tackle. All of that is true, but overall the offensive line is a 5-man unit that must work together, and if isolated, it's going to be much more difficult for them to have success. So even in these one-on-ones, for the offensive line to not only be winning some, but to have the true advantage over 2 days, that's a great sign for the Tennessee Titans offensive line. And again, I go back to the point that I made before the pads went on. We don't expect the Tennessee Titans pass rush to be very good. We do expect the Tennessee Titans offensive line to be a lot better. So if the Tennessee Titans offensive line was getting worked over by the defense, Well, that would be a big concern. So the fact that it's going the other way, the offensive line is having the majority of success against the defensive line in these one-on-one situations, that gives me hope that our expectations of the offensive line is correct. We already know that the pass rush is not going to be great. Do not, at any point in time during this preseason process, folks, do not get tricked into thinking that the Titans pass rush is going to be good. Don't do it. Don't. I'm telling you, do not get overhyped. You can get overhyped on Cam Ward, the rookie weapons, the defense overall, but please do not trick yourself into thinking that the Tennessee Titans pass rush is going to be good. So if the Titans offensive line is dominating, that's actually a great thing for the Titans in these one-on-one scenarios. And of course, when we drill down into the individual players, who do you think is doing the best work? Peter Skoronski. Again, Peter Skoronski, one of the best pass protectors in the NFL the last third of the season last year. Like, he took an elite jump as a pass protector at the back end of last season, and he's been nails so far in training camp. He stonewalled T'Vondre Sweat on a bull rush at one point in time. He's moving guys around. He's having massive success. Yesterday, we talked about how he was the by far clear-cut best pass protector that the Titans had, and I would only say that that continued. J.C. Latham continued to have a great day and really look smooth out there. I listened to, I think it was Greg Cosell at one point saying that he looks much more natural with his punch and his kick slide and all the stuff that you have to do. Jackson Slater. Jackson Slater was a star. Multiple people I saw tweeting about Jackson Slater showing out, driving people in that run game drill. The run game drill that we talked about, the 7-on-9, Jackson Slater was an animal. Look, I know that Corey Levin is currently the backup center, and Brian Callahan said in his press conference before practice that right now Jackson Slater is not working at center. So great, but I'm just saying, Kevin Zeitler is 35 years old. He's on a one-year deal. Jackson Slater could be the Tennessee Titans starting right guard by next year. And hey, we don't know what'll happen in the season. Could be by this year. But Jackson Slater, a guy I was high on coming into the draft, and I love that I'll always be connected to Jackson Slater because it was my name announcing him in that Tennessee Titans first rookie video. But Jackson Slater is a guy that has been impressive. And he's been moving up the ladder. And he's been getting more and more work and looking even better as of late. He's a guy who, and now Blake Hance, we'll talk about this more maybe tomorrow when I can drill into some of these other things that slip through the cracks. But Blake Hance missed his second straight practice with a calf injury. Blake Hance, in my opinion, was expected to be the number one backup player for the Tennessee Titans offensive line. Blake Hance can play tackle. Blake Hance can play primarily guard. He could play a little bit of center if you really needed him to. I don't think that that's going to be the case. But at the end of the day, Blake Hance was going to be the number 6 offensive lineman, in my opinion. And if he's missing time and Jackson Slater is taking advantage of those opportunities and impressing people, could move Jackson Slater up to that top offensive line backup spot. Now, continuing to talk about offensive line backups, another player that has continued to impress, and look, I begrudgingly talk about this. I did not like the pick. I did not like the player. I have not been a big fan since he was drafted, and it's Jalen Duncan. But the conversations around Jalen Duncan and the credit that Jalen Duncan is getting, and in these one-on-ones, Jalen Duncan was dominant. If Jalen Duncan can be turned into a number 3 tackle, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked. Truly, I'll be shocked. A number 3 tackle, even a swing tackle. A number 3 tackle, your swing tackle. If Jalen Duncan can be that serviceably for the Titans, I will be absolutely shocked. And I'll take a massive L on Jalen Duncan. But at the end of the day, this would be a miraculous project for Bill Callahan. But I have talked in recent weeks about how this organization believes in Jalen Duncan. They wanted to make him the starting right tackle last year throughout the season. They continue to want to give him opportunities, and right now he is the backup left tackle to Dan Moore, and it looks like he might be the number 1 backup offensive tackle, and they want to give him opportunities. He's got great athleticism. He's just a guy who his mindset has been questioned. His mentality on the field has been questioned. His commitment to football was something that was questioned when he was drafted. If he has truly dedicated himself and now he's getting the tutelage of Bill Callahan, the ceiling is the roof, is what I almost said because of the Michael Jordan thing from so long ago. But there is no ceiling for Jalen Duncan. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. Again, if he's a number 3 tackle for the Titans that they can count on, that's a massive win for the team, and I'll take a loss on Jalen Duncan. But imagine if Jalen Duncan were able to replace Dan Moore next year. Replace Dan Moore next year as a cheap, solid starting left tackle. Because I'm telling you, Dan Moore, look, I'm not there watching practice. I'm not there looking at Dan Moore's technique, seeing how he's done. But we've heard a lot about the offensive line in the last few days, and not a single person has a significant report on Dan Moore. And some people are replying to me on Twitter saying, no news is good news. I don't agree with that right now. We're hearing great news about Peter Skoronski, about Jalen Duncan, about J.C. Latham, about Jackson Slater, our rookie, and we haven't had one truly positive, like Dan Moore has looked good out there today. He's a $22 million a year left tackle. He was paid to be the Titans' franchise left tackle. And I'll be honest with you. Based on the lack of noise around Dan Moore, combined with some of the other reports about defensive wins, and the few times we have heard Dan Moore's name in any report, I just have to give you my guess here. I don't think Dan Moore's playing all that well. I don't think he's playing terrible, but I don't think right now, if you had truth serum for some of these beat reporters, they would tell you that Dan Moore's having a good camp. Like, just nothing. So, if you want to stay positive and say no news is good news, you have the prerogative to do that. Me, based on what I have seen and what I can glean, I don't think Dan Moore's been all that impressive so far. But hopefully we hear more soon about Dan Moore, just to, I guess, make me wrong. Please make me wrong. I hope Dan Moore isn't doing as bad as I think that he might be doing right now, but we don't know until we know. So with that being said, though, I want to talk about some standouts from practice. And since we're talking about blocking, we got to talk about Chig Okonkwo, who apparently had a great day as a blocker. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You could track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. For me personally, I didn't realize just how much money I was spending on online shopping until I was able to track my spending with Monarch, and I've been getting into investing lately, so having my investments, my spending, my accounts all in one place makes it super easy to manage. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down everything you need to know from Tennessee Titans practice on Wednesday. We talked about Cam Ward's struggles, but why it's all in the process. We talked about the offensive line and how they had a bounce-back day. Well, really, the offensive line has been doing pretty okay, except for we don't really know what's going on with Dan Moore. A lot of questions there. But with that being said, do want to get into some other notes. And we got to talk about the Calvin Ridley injury that wasn't. All right, I'm going to get there. Before I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But number one, do want to mention the Calvin Ridley injury at the end of practice. Calvin Ridley was taken off the field. He limped to the locker room with trainers, but according to multiple reports now that have come out since, it was just a cramp. Calvin Ridley was dealing with cramping, and let me be the first to say, if the Tennessee Titans don't have Calvin Ridley, boy, they are in trouble, because without Calvin Ridley, this is by far the worst wide receiver group in the NFL. With Calvin Ridley, it's, I think, bottom third, but not completely bottom five. With Calvin Ridley, it's much better. And for Cam Ward's sake, my Lanta, we can't lose Calvin Ridley. So thank the heavens above. Thank the heavens above that Calvin Ridley just had a cramp. That's great news. But Chig Okonkwo had a great day at practice, and not the way that you would think. I tell you that Chig Okonkwo has a great day at practice. You're thinking, oh, he caught a lot of passes from Cam Ward, but it's actually as a blocker. Zach Lyons, F words, said Chig Okonkwo was incredibly impressive as a blocker, had some big-time blocks. There was a pass protection block for Cam Ward where he picked up somebody in the run game period that we talked about earlier. And listen, Chig Okonkwo says that, he's in great shape, he's stronger, he's put on muscle, all that stuff. If Chig Okonkwo can truly take a step forward in the run blocking game, that is going to totally ruin my opinion that Gunnar Helm is going to be tight end 1 in snaps. Because all that Chig Okonkwo is really missing is consistency and then run blocking. And consistency in run blocking, for that matter. Now, look, I don't think that a good training camp or adding some muscle is going to turn 6'2" Chig Okonkwo into George Kittle. That's not going to happen, folks. All right? That's not going to be the case. But he needs to improve there. And if he can improve there and at least be serviceable, it's not just about how Chig Okonkwo can develop, but it's about the offense. If Chig Okonkwo can develop into a more serviceable, more consistent blocker, then that allows the Titans to be more diverse in their play calling with him on the field. There are plays that the Titans just simply would not call or should not call with Chig Okonkwo as your only tight end on the field, where him and a tackle or double teaming a defensive end to try to drive him out, or those backside pulls where he's coming across, and they're still going to use him on those. He just wasn't great in those scenarios last year, but if he can improve in those scenarios and keep the defense more off balance because they don't know what kind of plays they're going to call with Chig Okonkwo when the game is the only tight end, that significantly helps the Tennessee Titans offense and their play calling ability. So, big step forward for Chig Okonkwo this year in a contract year would be absolutely critical, not only for Cam Ward, not only for Chig himself, but for the offense as a whole. Also got to mention Kevin Winston. Every single place you look during training camp, you hear people talking about Kevin Winston. Today, smacked one of the running backs, and I think it was Kellen Mullings, smacked one of the running backs with a big-time hit at the end of practice. Maybe, not expected, but he wants to hit. So many people talking about Kevin Winston being there. He could lay somebody out. He's ready to put the pads on other teams. Kevin Winston has been one of the stars of training camp so far, even if he's not one of the starters. Will Dodson in the comments says, what's the update on Ridley's injury? It is a cramp. I said that earlier. If you're just popping in, Calvin Ridley has a cramp. It's been said by multiple people, multiple sources. It's just a cramp. Everybody relax. Thank the football gods above. But with that being said, again, Kevin Winston has been somebody who stood out, even though he's not a starter yet. I would say that he has been one of the big winners of camp so far just because he continues to make plays. Every single day, people are talking about Kevin Winston, whether it's making plays, pass breakup, interception, hitting somebody. It's the Kevin Winston show. And he's somebody who might even be a guy who could maybe take a starting role midway through the season. You know what I mean? Like he's ready to contribute. I cannot believe how ready to go Kevin Winston is. That's awesome stuff. But final guy that I'm going to mention here. And there are other people who deserve their credit, and on tomorrow's show, I'm going to try to get to, really start to throw some love to some people who haven't got it lately, even though I think I do hit on just about everything. But last guy that I want to talk about here is Bryce Oliver. Bryce Oliver he caught one down the field from Cam Ward. He caught a touchdown pass with one of the backup quarterbacks in the red zone period at the end, or the move it period at the end. Bryce Oliver's just everywhere. He's on special teams as a gunner. He's making plays with the first team, the second team. It doesn't matter. And you see him in the drills, like the videos of the individual drills, and it's just individual drills. But man, he looks smooth. Man, he looks good. I mean, I said it earlier this week. I think it was 2 shows ago. But at this point, we got to be talking about Bryce Oliver as like wide receiver 3 or 4. I think Bryce Oliver might get more opportunities than a guy like Tyler Lockett by the end of the season. And Bryce Oliver might be ahead of guys like Elikai Manor and Chim DK. He just may be that consistent. So, Bryce Oliver, Did a good job as an undrafted free agent rookie last year when he got opportunities. Getting more opportunities this year and taking advantage. The team seems really, really happy with what he's done this offseason. But with that being said, the Titans don't have an open practice I think they're off on Thursday, don't have an open practice on Friday. They're back on Saturday. So on tomorrow's show, I'm going to kind of collect my thoughts and talk overall about what we've seen this second week of training camp with the pads on. Make sure that you're here with me to break it all down. But that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.